Hi, I'm Christie Rogero. I'm the director of the Jackson Galaxy Project at Greater Good Charities. I'm very happy to be here today to talk to you about Cat Pawsitive. Before we go any further, though, I want to give a really big shout out to Boehringer Ingelheim for sponsoring this webinar today, this series, and we're so happy to have their support. So please give them a big shout out. Thank you very much. So today we're going to be talking about increasing shelter cat enrichment and adoption through clicker training. Jackson Galaxy, who I think you all know and love, the mission of the Jackson Galaxy Project is to improve the lives of cats and transform the places that they live and to help the people who care for them. Cat Pawsitive, our behavior program, really dovetails with that very well because we are helping the cats in your care, but we're also giving you, shelter staff and volunteers, the tools to be able to improve the quality of life of the cats in your care in a really active way. So this is where we've worked so far. The program started in 2016 with just 9 shelters as our pilot program. And to date, this is March 2022, we have worked with over 200 shelters in the United States, in almost all of the states. So if you know anyone who is in Alaska, Alabama, Hawaii, Montana, Nebraska, North Dakota, or Wyoming, please tell them to apply because I'm very eager to see them. We really would like to get the entire country covered so that people can work with each other and learn to train cats. So a lot of people will ask us, you know, why are you going to train cats? I mean, clearly. But that question kind of makes me crazy, and it makes me wonder what people are thinking, right? So when you think of training, you typically will think of dogs. So dogs in shelters in general get a lot of the attention. They get the behavior manager, they get the behavior modification programs. People go out of their way to make Kongs filled with peanut butter that they freeze. The kids are making biscuits. The volunteers come in and they walk the dogs once a day, twice a day, 25 times a day. Play groups, things like that. What do the cats get? Here's a toy, here's a scratcher. Someone's going to go in and play. You have someone who's really into the cats who might go in and pet them and brush them and say hi, try to socialize them in one way or another. But we typically kind of think if a cat is safe at the shelter, the cat is in a kennel, the cat's in a community room, that's all the cat needs. But that's totally not true, and we're going to tell you all about why. So we're going to talk about not only the why, but we're going to tell you a little bit about the how and the what that we do for training cats. And I'm going to show you a little bit of the impact of the training that we do in Cat Pawsitive and what cat training can bring to your shelter. Again, why are we going to promote training? So it's fun. It's actually fun, and cats actually can be trained. Contrary to popular belief, they're not stubborn in that particular way. They're super smart. Smarter than dogs. Okay, so it's fun for you. It's fun for the cat. What you're developing with training is a really great cooperative relationship with your cat. You are giving them a way to come to trust you. If you go in every day at the same time of day and you are going to work with them in a very particular way, they come to see that as it's reliable. You're going to show up. Something good's going to happen. They're going to have some fun. And that's something that they can look forward to. And they come to trust a human being that is coming in to do that. And it's cooperative by nature. We are giving cats the choice to work with us. We're not forcing them, we're not coercing them, we're not saying you're not gonna get any food if you don't train, nothing like that. We're gonna work with them. Cats who do things like this develop confidence, so they're coming to trust you and they're coming to just feel like, hey, I'm doing something new, this is really exciting, and they're willing to step out of their comfort zone a little bit more. The fun and practical behaviors of training are so numerous, there's almost too numerous to mention, but I'll try to mention it a little bit later. But it's really important to know that the point of the program, and as much as you're going to hear about high-fiving cats and cats who can jump through hoops and cats who can sit on cue, it's not about making your cat a performer. What this program is about and what cat training is about is to take cats who are adoptable but maybe getting overlooked, cats who are less adoptable, cats who are maybe not showing off as well in the shelter environment, the opportunity to be seen in a new way. So we're not trying to exploit them. It's not like the old style circus where we're saying, stand up here and it's just for fun. We are utilizing mental and physical enrichment in the form of teaching them complex or simple behaviors. It helps them to be happier, it helps them to be healthier, and it helps them to be more adaptable. And again, we're giving them choices to help them live the best possible life that they can in a shelter environment. So choice, right? This cat doesn't look like it has much of a choice right now. It's scared. You can tell by its body language. It's hunched over. It's in a litter box. It's very scared. When a cat goes into a shelter environment, and no matter how great the shelter, you can have the best of the best in materials, you can have the best of the best in cat trees and enrichment and all these different things. The cat is still in a shelter, right? It has lost the only home it's ever known maybe, or maybe it was living out on the street and it's just like, what is this indoor thing? I don't understand. I used to be able to run and play with my other cat friends. I used to be able to interact with my mom and she would give me toys and scratch me behind the ears, and now I'm in this cage and what is happening? They lose their ability to walk around if they're in a cage. Even if they're in a community room, they have lost their favorite toy, their favorite scratcher, whatever the case may be, the things that give them their sense of, I belong here, this is mine, all that kind of stuff. They don't have the opportunity to do things in a way that they would prefer. So when they lose choices, when they lose the opportunity to make choices, we're going to give them the opportunity to get that power back through training. I think we all know that if you increase the stress of a cat, you're going to decrease their welfare, right? There's been a lot of studies shown that, cats become more ill if they're sick in a shelter environment, or if they're stressed in a shelter environment. So we know that some of the signs of stress are what Chiquita's doing, right? If you take a look at her body language, she's hunched over, she's as far back as she can get. She's very aware of what's going on. She's nervous, her ears are a little bit back, her eyes are very focused. You can tell that she's afraid something terrible is about to happen to her, and she doesn't know what it is. So she's stressed. You might see cats who are hiding like her. They're trying to avoid being touched. They might be vocalizing in really weird ways. Litter box aversion. They might not eat for you, or they might just eat a lot. They might not groom at all, or they might overgroom. They might feign sleep to make it look like they don't understand what's happening, but in reality, their ears are moving and they understand everything that's going on in their environment and they're terrified. So these are all things that are signs of stress that you should always be on the lookout. Decreased welfare, and we know that one of the 5 freedoms is freedom from fear and distress. We're trying to decrease that fear and stress. So we want to reduce it as much as possible by restoring some normal routines, giving them the opportunity to improve or gain psychosocial bonds with humans again, and give them environmental control, the power of choice again. Chiquita is not demonstrating adoptability right now. I mean, yeah, there are unicorn adopters. I'm one of them that would be like, give me that cat. I'll totally adopt this cat. But in general, if an adopter comes into your shelter and sees a cat like that hiding in the back of the cage, or even not making eye contact with you from the back of the cage, you're less likely to be like, yeah, I'm going to adopt this cat. That's fabulous. You want a cat, most people want a cat, who's going to engage, who wants to, come up to the front of the kennel and be like, hey, I choose you, you're the best. And they're going to give you all sorts of attention, and you feel that you develop that bond. If a cat is like this, or a cat is showing signs of fearfulness in the form of swatting or hissing, you're not going to be able to make as great of an adoption match for them. This is my favorite part. Okay, so classical conditioning, Pavlov's dog. We know Pavlov's dog, right? Pavlov taught his dogs to salivate at the sound of a bell. This is classical conditioning. So the way animals learn is, in general, through classical and operant conditioning. So they are different, but they are connected, and we'll show you why. So in classical conditioning, you give a stimulus and you get a response, right? There's a relationship between a sound, let's say, and what happens after that sound. The sound of, the Windows booting up, doing whatever it's doing, is your clicker sound. What the presentation of food is the Altoid, and the salivation excitement is, Dwight being like, give me the Altoid. So what we end up going for is that the cat associates the sound of a clicker with something good, right? In general, that's what classical conditioning is going to be. Operant conditioning is where the cat learns that a certain behavior that they do leads to a certain consequence. And another way of saying that is if the cat does something that you like, they're going to get something that they like. So we want to use operant conditioning when we want the cat to actively engage in making a choice that we can identify, and we can reward them by saying, yes, you totally did that. So if the cat gives you a high five, you immediately click and you give them their preferred reinforcer, their treat, whether that's a food treat or playing with a particular toy, things like that. Notice, didn't get treated. I think kind of they've got the human trained more than anything else. So basically in that situation, the cat did something, the cat gets access to something really great. They ring the bell, they get food on their plate. So you basically are mixing classical conditioning and operant conditioning when you do clicker training. We use 4 different positive reinforcement training methods. We use capturing, targeting, luring, and shaping as ways of working with the cats. So why do we use a clicker? Why do we use a clicker? Because, okay, here's an example. My voice sounds like this, and I go in and I train the cat every day, and the cat comes to associate my voice with doing something cool. But if I come in and I do this and I talk like this, but the cat is already associating a person's high-pitched voice with something else, it's not necessarily going to give them the exact same information that a clicker would give. A clicker is consistent among all trainers. If you have people with any kind of voice, any kind of whatever, it's consistent. They get specific information that is given to them by the sound of the clicker, the same way that Dwight was like, the Windows sound, give me the Altoid. It seems to be more fun for them in general than just like give them a bowl of food and things like that. The clicker facilitates much faster learning, and it has the effect of longer retention of what the cat has learned. And I have personal experience with this because I love my cat, Misha. He is dumb as a box of rocks, just like derped out, and, hi, Mom. I taught him, out of all of my cats, how to high five first. A year later, he hadn't high fived in months, but as soon as I put my hand up, he understood immediately that he needed to touch my hand with his paw, and he was able to do that. Derpiest cat I know, but he was able to figure it out. So how do you use a clicker? Seems pretty easy. You all were doing it. Somebody click a clicker for me. Yes, fabulous. Really, really, really easy. It's got a button. It's really cool. Cat clickers, we like them to be a little bit quieter. They're not going to, like the box clickers that you use for dog training, like the ones that have the metal in there. It's a lot louder, a little harsher for a cat, and it can be a little scary. These clickers are a little quieter. They also have the benefit of, because the button is sort of out there, you could even like stick it on the floor and get it with your paw, with your foot. You could hold it behind your back, things like that. If the cat is still scared of the clicker sound itself, you can use things like a click top pen, you can use a little Snapple lid, something like that to make a quieter clicker sound. But it's not just about clicking the clicker. What you are doing with clicker training is you have to really hone your observational and your mechanical skills, right? You need to observe and understand your cat to see exactly what it is that you want to give the reinforcer, the reward for. You have to have a really good understanding of your cat, and the better you are with using the clicker itself, the better your training's going to be. You're not only clicking for the correct behavior, but your timing has to be good. You don't want to see the cat do something and you're not paying attention and then someone says, oh, he did it, and then you click and then you give them the treat. Your timing has to be really good. So that's important. So we're doing mechanical and observational skills. But today, we're going to do a game. Oh, here they are. I'm going to be a cat, which is really not out of the realm of possibility. So we're going to do observational skill game today. I'm going to put my right hand up to shoulder height, right, with my palm out. This is me saying, I'm a cat. I want you to high five me, right? When you see me put my hand up like this, you are going to click your clicker one time. right? I don't have any candy for you to throw at me, otherwise I would be really happy right now. But you're just gonna click it when you see me do the behavior that I'm asking for, right? Okay, everybody ready? Okay. Fabulous. Ready again? Fabulous. Okay. So that happens all the time. This is why we do clicker skill practice, right? Sometimes you're expecting to see a certain behavior. Maybe what you are seeing is not exactly it. So if you're practicing a sit and the cat gets their little behind like just near the floor and you click too early, they're not understanding that the little tush has to be right on the floor. So you're watching for exactly what you want to click. So let's try this again. Fabulous. Okay. Oh, it was good. Very nice. Okay. All right. You guys are the bomb. Yes, very good. So you're practicing your mechanical skills and your observational skills. Other things that you're working on are holding your treat hand, the hand that's holding a treat, in a really neutral position. So a lot of times people will put their hand on a table, or they will hold their hand up like this so that they are keeping it in a neutral position and not kind of drawing the attention of the cat to the treat. Same thing with the clicker. They're not trying to say, here's the clicker. We're not pointing the clicker at them or anything like that, unlike this thing here. So there's a lot more to this, but I really just wanted an excuse to be able to give you clickers. So this is why we're here. I'm going to take this off, even though I really do love wearing my ears. Okay, so the first goal of clicker training in general is happy cats. So let's take a look at Chiquita after she did clicker training. So her body language is completely different. This is a cat whose eyes are really soft. Her ears are really happy. She is showing us like, hey, I'm relaxed. Everything's soft. She's working with people. This is only after a few weeks. So you have a cat who's absolutely terrified to a cat who's willing to engage with strangers and adopters, right? So the cat is happy. We are looking for, in clicker training, not making them performers, but improving their quality of life. This is important. Just giving cats toys, just giving them scratchers, yes, they need those, they totally do. Playing with them, they totally need these things. But to work with them in a very specific way that gives them the opportunity to make this choice, gets them there faster and gets them adopted faster. And when their quality of life is better, they're going to show better. You as staff members or volunteers are going to feel better, because how many of you have seen cats like Chiquita in the back of a kennel, especially if you're maybe at a shelter that has to euthanize for space, right? And you know that the cat who's staring into the corner is not going to get adopted. And you go home and you say, there's nothing I can do for this cat. And it's heartbreaking. But if you can use tools like this to get Chiquita to go from hiding in the back of a kennel to relaxing like this and getting adopted, that's good for you too. It's not just about the cats. So we want to use these kinds of tools to get the kind of results that Chiquita has. So we're looking for adoptions, yes. So Felix was a cat who wanted nothing to do with anybody and was kind of swatty and hissy and not a really happy cat. But we started doing training with this cat, and the thing that Felix liked the best was learning how to do like a little nose bump, right? This is the adopter who came in, and Felix was acting kind of like squirrely and not really good, but the person at the shelter said, hey, sit down, here's some treats, I'm going to show you what to do. And as soon as Felix gave her a nose bump, she decided to adopt this cat. The thing that she wrote to us and said that she was happy that it allowed cats to show their true personality and not just their coping mechanisms. So his coping mechanism was being swatty. His coping mechanism was not engaging with people. He was not going to get adopted with that kind of behavior. We were able to take him out of that to show that he has his own personality. Yes, this program can lead to lots of adoptions with clicker training. Yes, absolutely. Is it the only goal? No. Improving quality of life is going to inevitably lead to more adoptions. It's a great outcome, but that should not be your own focus. We're trying to get these cats to learn how to cat again as best as they can in the shelter environment. This is just a little sample of some of the stuff that we did. I really love watching that video. So I told you I'd tell you all the behaviors. So this list is obviously not exhaustive. There are some things that are super cute. I mean, when they sit up on their back legs, and we call it a sit pretty, and some people call it a T-Rex, and they put their little paws like this. Getting a cat to come when called. I mean, my cats never come when I call them unless I have a food cam, but sit in a lap, you know, give a high five, things like that. But also basic things, like for a cat like Chiquita, who's hiding in the back of the kennel, you can use clicker training to get eye contact from her. And if you can get a cat who won't make eye contact with you to begin to understand that if I look at you, I'm going to get something amazing. Even if she doesn't eat it right away, even if you have to leave it, and you slowly build up to, I'm going to put the treat there, and she's going to eat it, and she looked at me. You're just reinforcing for her looking at you can change their entire lives, because then you have a cat who understands cause and effect, who knows that, hey, if I make this little adjustment and maybe put my foot out next and start walking to the front, I might get something really cool too. And then your cat's coming to the front of the cage, right? So super awesome. You're helping each individual cat to be happier. So not every cat is like a Chiquita who is hiding. You've got cats like I mean, look at the little pot sitter, it's adorable, who are like really outgoing. You have all different kinds of cats. So you want to tailor your training to what they actually need. You can also teach really useful behaviors. And we have a lot of videos about this up on our YouTube channel, but I'll show you this cute one. This is a kitten. And they're just teaching it to go into a carrier. How amazing would it be to send a cat home who knows how to go into a carrier? They're getting the cat used to staying in the carrier for a certain amount of time. And here they sort of make a mistake. They don't give the cue.
He's waiting. Say escape. Escape.
So the cue for the kitten to come out was escape. They actually train the cat to wait in there and get a treat afterwards too. So something like that is amazing. Teaching a cat to go to a place and stay. If you have a door darter, if someone calls your shelter and says my cat keeps getting out, or they're coming to reclaim them, if you're lucky enough to get a cat reclaim, and they're like, it just runs out the door constantly, you can teach that cat to go to place and stay there when your door is open and prevent that cat from getting out. They're all like same thing for like if they're always on your counters when you're trying to make dinner, teach them to go to place and stay, and you have less stress between the guardian and the cat. So a lot of really useful things, not just quote unquote tricks, because we don't like to call them tricks, we call them behaviors. Very important. So what kind of cats are training candidates? All kinds of cats. So we talked about reinforcers, and we're giving them like food treats. We can also use toys. We can also use, in some cases, short amounts of petting. If a cat is super social and they really love the ear scratch, you're like, hey, here's 3 seconds of ear scratch, back to training. You can do all sorts of things, all kind of responder types. You can work on cats who have really long length of stay. You can work on cats who are not available for adoption yet. Maybe they're on a stray hold, something like that. I mean, that was a very young kitten. You can usually start training them around 6-ish weeks. It takes a little longer, but it can be done. Adults, seniors, several of the cats in that compilation video were senior cats who had had nothing done with them because they're like, they're 13, they're 14, they have arthritis, they don't want to do this. And they totally wanted to do it because they were bored out of their minds from sitting there and no one wanted to adopt this 13, 14-year-old cat. Medical concerns. We have had people train ringworm cats. If you get in the right outfit and you're only working with your cats with your ringworm clickers, you can work with cats who are in ringworm treatment, all sorts of things, with your vet's permission, of course. You always want to talk to your vet. And cats with behavioral concerns. We've already talked about some of this. The cats who are super shy, the cats who are afraid, the cats who are quote unquote aggressive, because we don't really like to label them, and aggression can mean one thing to you and one thing to another person, but we try not to give them that kind of a label. So we're going to talk about some of these cats. This is Garfield. He laid like that all the time. He was like the king of leisure. So he was already super relaxed and getting attention for the fact that he wanted to be like a person. So he was very easy to train. He's already social, didn't need to work on anything. It was just something, a new enrichment way to get him happy, and he gets adopted within a week. Other cat who's already outgoing, they built a little agility course for her to just keep her brain moving, to help her get something to focus on. High energy cats. Domino literally climbed the kennel chain link all the time. The cat was bonkers. This is an open admission shelter, municipal in San Francisco, very, very noisy. The cats had big spaces, but they were all chain link, very open, lots of noise. So Domino was freaked out all the time. Only took a short number of training sessions before Domino clearly sees Garfield in the next thing and starts learning how to just sort of be chill, right? So he gets to relax into himself and not freak out a potential adopter who says, I don't want a cat that's climbing the walls. I don't want a cat who's going to ruin my curtains. I don't want this. Next thing you know, meets a wonderful family who moves him out to the suburbs where he gets to watch roosters and wonderful things. He was a lot less stressed, and he wasn't interacting with people in a way that they didn't want. He wasn't sort of gnawing on their hands or anything like that. High energy, overstimulated cats. So 95% of people who go through cat positive training say that it helped them to be able to work with cats who are super high energy and overstimulated. Each one of these cats was just like hyper. They could not focus anything. They were just sort of climbing walls, not interacting appropriately with people who would come into the shelter. So giving them something to do, particularly with Captain at 5 Acres, with Nelson, something as complex as an agility course gives them something new to focus on. And so you get cats who are then calmer, they're more relaxed, they're not showing these, like, for lack of a better term, like jittery behaviors. In the shelter environment, they're calmer, they show better, they're feeling better. Difficult or cranky cats. So it's a really big thing in cat positive that we don't label cats as mean or angry or, you know, spiteful, those kinds of things, because we all know that cats are not spiteful. Learning to describe what you are seeing, the behavior itself that you are seeing, and not giving it a label helps you to be able to work more with these cats. Pippi, I kid you not, was described by the shelter staff as murderous. It's literally the term they used, and I've never forgotten it, and I always use Pippi as an example. Pippi got to do an agility course. They made a huge agility course for her. She was just wanted to bite people, rip their faces off, scratch them. She had nowhere to put her energy, and she was coming across as aggressive. But when they tried the agility course, she's like, oh, and she would run through, and next thing you know, she wants to be petted. Next thing you know, she's adopted by some dude who had no experience with cats, who was like, oh yeah, agility, that's the bomb. I'm totally gonna do this, and takes this cat home and can do agility. Alana's, same type of thing, really scratchy, bitey. You have a volunteer who's like right there within a couple feet of her with his face there. Carly Kravitz, her name is Kravitz, okay? Kravitz. She had a totally bad reputation just for being crabby. And she wasn't crabby, she just didn't feel great, and she was bored, and giving her something to do made her happier. It made her want to engage with people more. 79% of people who went through cat positive training felt that they could work with cats like this and learned to describe their behavior rather than a label for these cats. And they learned how to talk, especially important, learned how to talk to other volunteers and other staff members and leadership about the cat in terms that are more helpful to that cat and to life-saving for that cat. If you can not say, damn, she's really aggressive, you can instead say, she swatted at me in this particular manner, but what we did was we took that swat and we were able to translate that into a high five. Now we have a cat who is doing something adorable, doesn't feel like it has to lash out at me, and you have a better way to describe how things work for that cat in your shelter. This is like my favorite scary thing. Okay, this is Belle at Easel. I'm gonna see if it plays.
What's the matter? What's the matter? Yeah.
Did y'all jump? I still jump, right? So this cat had just come into the shelter maybe the day before. Now they are unknowingly making the stress worse for Belle by trying to put that glove in there. It's triggering her to be even more afraid. So it is not what you want to do. But this gave us the opportunity, when they sent us this thing, to be like, yeah, so maybe we want to not do that. This is her not that long later. They were able to take the nasty swatting that was scaring them and making them jump and turn it slowly into a high five situation. But basically, she gave beautiful high fives by the end, just lovely. And one of her main trainers actually took her home. And I think they won second place in the National High Five Contest last year. I think they did. So you can take cats that are even like that and get them through a little bit. So for cats like Boots, Boots was super scared in the shelter environment and was really shutting down. We use a stress scale in Cat Pawsitive, and anytime you're going to do training with cats, you want to evaluate their body language, you want to evaluate their stress score to make sure that you're not making it worse, number one, for training, but you get a baseline of where they start. So if Boots starts at a 4, that's like, so 6 is like, I will kill you, oh my God, and don't work with me, I don't ever want to be touched. 4 is like, really getting edgy. They're just like a little bit, you're nervous working with them, they're very afraid, or they're swatting a lot, things like that. Or they're so shut down that they won't look at you, you can't interact with them, whatever. So Boots, during this training, we measure before training each day and after training. So Boots was able to go from, and you can tell the body language, the way the ears are planed out, the way he's holding his eyes all hunched in together like this, to this, like up and happy and engaging and like, look at that pose. I mean, just a happy cat. So it's a really great way to get these cats to relax, to feel that they don't have to be as afraid. A lot of people who go through this are stunned that the program isn't just about giving high fives, that it's about primarily working on quality of life for cats like this who are previously unable to interact or who are interacting in ways that won't help them get adopted. So this is a couple of transformations. Lizzo, I mean, look at her body language. Again, she's really scared, hunched down, she's given side eye, she's really afraid. Hermie spent all of her time, that's a community cat room, or open cat room, where all she did was hide under that little veranda thing constantly. Their quality of life was terrible. They never interacted and they were afraid of everybody. This is in the middle of training where we're doing basic things. For Hermie, it was, hey, would you be willing to move your head a little bit up and maybe come a little bit more towards us? For Lizzo, it was like, let's maybe get rid of the airplane ears and feel like we can relax our body language and come and sniff something. By the end, Lizzo is rolling over, happy, interacting with adopters and gets taken home. And Hermie is like, I love my life in the middle of the floor of the room. And she was super engaged with people and was really willing to come out of her shell. Same thing with Dennis. Dennis lived behind this towel. And yes, you should always make sure that your cats have a place to sort of get away and, you know, have their privacy, and if they're shy, these things. But we wanted Dennis to be seen. Dennis is cute, right? Dennis spent the first couple of weeks of training, they were just training him to put his paw out from behind that towel. That was all they wanted. That was a big breakthrough. That was like, oh, I can reach that treat. This is yum. Okay, let me take a peek out. Oh, okay. Next thing you know, Dennis is out from behind that towel all the time, engaging with the trainers, and then gets himself a home. It's very simple. This does not take a lot of work. It takes a little bit of time every day. We're talking 2 to 3 minutes, once, twice a day, typically 3-4 days a week, consistently doing this kind of work, and you can get cats to come out like this. So senior cats, same thing. She was 13, I think. I'm pretty sure that her high five got her adopted. She'd been at the shelter for 1.5 years. No one wanted a 13-year-old cat. Learns a high five. The adopters came in specifically because of a video showing the high five. And it could have been anything. It could have been a sit on cue. It could have been whatever. But if you're going to overlook a senior cat and you teach that senior cat to do something, anything to get noticed, it's going to be cool. And you get a cat who's going to high five you. Like, who's not going to want to take a cat who high fives you? It's really awesome. And 97% of people are like, yeah, this is amazing. This gives me the ability to work with cats that I never thought I could do much with in the past. So long-term residents, this is our ringworm ward. So every day, like 3 to 4 days a week, they would go in there, only wearing all their protective gear, only using materials that were designed to be used just with the ringworm cats. Perfect. Stewie was going through some sort of long-term medical intervention, an infection or something. The only time he interacted with the people back in the medical ward was medicine and something like shots. And being handled and things that were scary for him. Because we were able to work with him, he spent all that time not regressing, but being able to continue to interact with people. And he came out and was adopted the day that he came out of the medical ward. I mean, look at that face. Obviously, you're going to adopt that cat. But again, Reese had just been sitting there forever at Paws and suddenly gets adopted just because he can do a high five. It's really important to understand that the longer, I mean, you all know this, I mean, preaching to the choir, the longer that they're in a kennel environment, the longer that they're in a shelter without the right kind of mental, physical stimulation, the more likely they're just going to deteriorate. Buska was deteriorating to the point that they were going to have to euthanize her because she was becoming, I mean, look at her face. I mean, that's an angry cat. She looks angry. She's not actually angry. She's frustrated. She's been there a long time. Really tons of noise near a dog area. So her face is all scrunched up. She doesn't want to be interacting with anyone. She's very scratchy. She's very swatty. So people were afraid of her. Who's going to want to adopt this cat? But with training, which took a little bit of time to start, she was able to not deteriorate anymore. And literally, it saved her life because she had this option to be able to find a way to take the frustration that she had in the shelter and turn it into something else. Champ was my favorite. He lived under this Kuranda bed for months, and all it took was giving treats outside of the Kuranda bed right here on the edge to get him to be able to be like, oh, I can be out in the middle of the room. He'd spent so much time under this Kuranda bed, and they're like, he's so shy, he's so afraid of people, we'll never get him adopted. But they just tried working with him in a different way, and they were able to get him out and about, easy to get adopted, no problem. For staff and volunteers, I kind of already touched on this. If you can help cats like this who are maybe never going to get adopted or who have been sitting at your shelter for 2 months, 3 months. If you're a shelter that can hold them for a year, we've had people who had cats held for 3 years, 4 years. Obviously, you don't want a cat to be in a shelter environment for 3 years or 4 years, but you're able to get them out, and for shelter staff and volunteers to be able to do something that gets them out that way, there are a lot of happy faces. We cry constantly. How many times do we cry? We cry all the time, right? It's happy tears all the time. And the teams tend to be able to work better together. A lot of times you have that division between staff and volunteers where people are like, oh, I don't really like them, or maybe we don't get along, or maybe there's volunteers that don't necessarily, oh, people are smiling, I know this happens. So giving them a common language, a common purpose. You have team leaders at these shelters running these programs who then engage with the volunteers and the staff every single day about these cats. And they get to work together and they're happier together. I mean, this group was this was the beginning of the semester, and they actually stayed this way the whole time. But everyone who was on this team ended up learning new things, learning new ways to describe their cats, learning new ways to get cats out. This is the shelter that won our very first National High Five Day contest. Obviously, you put a thing out there, teach your cat to high five, send in a video, it's gonna be wonderful, you can win money for your shelter. And so they taught this one cat to do an amazing high five, beautiful, but the leg that she was doing the high five with was injured, right? She came in that way. They were trying to save this leg, and it turned out they weren't gonna be able to save that leg. So you take this cat who's high fiving amazingly and amputate that leg. Within 4 days, she was high fiving with the other paw because you took something that she understood that was routine for her. She was able to immediately figure out a way to transfer that. It kept her active, and oh my God, the amount of crying that happened at this shelter. Because it's a great way to transition, and you figure if you can get a cat to do something like that in the shelter, if you can give an adopter a clicker and some basic instruction, and you say, we've been working on sit on cue with this cat. Your cat, you send a cat home, they're going to hide for a while, they're scared, they're not necessarily going to make great connections with the adopter right away. But if right off the bat, they can start working with them with something that is familiar, it's a bridge to help reduce the amount of time that those cats spend hiding, right? You're obviously never going to force the cat to do anything, but you're giving them like, I recognize this, I can do this, I can come out and maybe work with these people. They're going to give me something that I really like. I'm going to get that treat that I love. Oh, wow. So this is all of this is all the different staff and volunteers. So this is just sort of over the years, the impact that they had. A lot of times I mean, I think you all know this, that you spend so much time working on troublesome things that you don't get to appreciate the good work that you're doing. This gave staff members and volunteers time to actually slow down and appreciate the cats more. One person said that they never realized that cats were individuals, that they had their own personalities. And that sounds horrible to us because we're like cat ladies, but that's something that's typical, right? You hear people who are like, I like dogs, they have personalities. And you're like, but every cat's an individual too. And this program gives you the opportunity to be able to see them as individuals. So adoptions, yeah, lots of adoptions. It's wonderful. A lot of times you're going to see tons of them. Other times at a shelter, you might not see quite so many in the beginning, but you see them more towards the end once the program is really up and going. Again, we focus more on the quality of life. The adoptions are going to come. A lot of these cats ended up, they were long stay cats who otherwise probably would have stayed there for more months and instead ended up getting out maybe in a month instead of what would have been expected. So you can reduce the expected length of stay and you can just get them out of your shelter and move cats faster and get people coming in. So obviously this is because you're going to see Jackson next, but what we're used to doing in shelters in most cases is brush, brush, pet, pet, talk to the cat, play with the toy, right? And we're used to that. It's comfortable. We think it's doing something for the cat. In most cases, it's not doing what we think it's doing for the cat, right? But if we are able to work with them in a different way, we can make something better happen more quickly. When Jackson goes into on a show, like goes into a house, and he sees a cat who's like peeing on the rug or doing whatever, he doesn't just go up to the cat and be like, hi, kitty, would you stop peeing on the rug? And then he talks to the owners and like, good luck, see ya, good, wonderful time. He gives them homework, right? He gives them a video camera. He tells them to write things down. He goes back and checks on them. He expects them to follow a particular regimen to try to get that cat to stop doing what they don't want it to do or to begin doing something they do want it to do, right? But that is work. It's homework, and it's something we're not necessarily used to doing with our cats. So cats in a training program, you have a behavior journal. You're going to write down how the cat seems at the beginning of a session, how the cat seems at the end of a session. You are going to have a particular way of working with them. Are you going to go in and never pet them and say, not get to go, I love you, to cats who want to? You're going to give them love. You're going to do the same things you could normally do. But when you start a training session, you're working in a very particular way with very particular tools for a particular length of time. And if you get volunteers and staff who want to do that, who are willing to commit to engaging with your cats in that way, you're actually going to be able to make progress for those cats. And it takes commitment. It does take time. It's not easy. I mean, I will be the first, and I mean, people who've done Cat Positive, is it easy right away? No, right? It takes time, and it's a new way of working, and not everyone's going to buy into it right away, clicker training, but it does work. And if you put in the time, you're going to see results with your cats. And I'm not just saying it's through Cat Positive. Any kind of clicker training that you're going to do is going to help your cats. If you do want to do Cat Positive, though, send me an email, and I will get you involved. We're now doing a self-paced rolling admission type of thing. So the program is, we started it typically in January, and it runs through March, April, but now we're doing it on a rolling basis. So you can come in at any time, work with your staff on your timetable, and get the basics down so that you can work with, staff, volunteers, adopters, whatever. So when you do this, you're going to want to take photos of the cats before and after. You're going to take videos, because if you take videos, you're going to watch your training progress and see what you're doing, what you can improve. But if you've got someone in there who can, hey, I'm going to take the cats who are sort of coming and trying to be interlopers in your open cat room. We're going to keep them busy with something over here while you work with this cat. For cats who are in a kennel environment, you can give, like, those like licky mats and things, like you just put something for them to lick, something to keep them busy, just to keep them engaged so they're not like, oh, what's happening, what's happening. The cats eventually learn that if you are paying attention just to them, that they are the ones that are going to get the clicker thing. It seems really counterintuitive, and It works, though. It does. Other things that they do, you can sort of like hang a little curtain. If the cats, we have cats who like paw down, they're like, give me, you know. So you can do that. All sorts of ways to just sort of engage them. And if you are interested at all, totally email me and I'll get you all set up for everything. I'm very excited to work with any and all of you. So thanks so much.